You're wrong. You're stupid. Bloody millennials. I'm not one of them. Hello everyone and welcome back to another week on my channel. The chair is squeaking. Today is Tuesday, which means it's time for another episode of Digital Nomad Diaries. And this is a video I've been wanting to do for about a million years. Probably not that long. We're going back to a time where Atomic Kitten were all the rage. When I was a twink. It's raining men. And also the time when I first ever went travelling. Yes, we're going back to 2001 to talk about how we used to travel back in the day. So before we get started, just a word of warning, there is random drilling and roadworks happening outside, but unfortunately this is a situation I'm in. You'll just have to deal with it, I'm afraid, just like I am. So I did a few videos a few weeks ago about must-have travel apps and must-have Japan travel apps. You can check them out up above. And it kind of got me thinking about the fact that we very much take for granted a lot of things these days in terms of planning a trip and also actually executing a trip. That's a very good word. And also, a couple of days ago, a new volunteer, a new workaway person arrived at the hostel in Hiroshima, and he is 21 years old. I'm 35, and it kind of got me thinking that when I first went travelling in 2001, he was 4 years old. So, you know, if there's any way of making someone feel old, that is the way. So basically, I'm an old man. I'm an OAP in terms of the travel world. It really got me thinking about how did I plan that trip back in the day compared to how I plan it now. And I realised that it's completely different. And I could not imagine not having all the things we have these days that help us plan trips around the world. We have blogs, we have crappy YouTube videos like this one that help you plan your trip. We have websites, we have apps, we have all sorts of things that make our life a million times easier. So in 2001, my first ever trip, when I was 19 years old, I was a twink. I'm going to stop saying twink now, but yes, it's not good. I was a teenager. So we went to Thailand, me and two friends of mine, for 2 weeks, and then we went to Australia for 6 weeks and Singapore. In total, it was just over about 2 months. You know, we did the whole classic east coast of Australia, teenage drunken backpacker thing that catches chlamydia and things like that. That didn't happen to me, by the way. So in terms of planning that trip back in the day, these are the things we did. There was something called this, Virtual Tourist. What the hell is this? Basically, it was a website where you could go on there and share experience about travels, you can post photos, you can ask questions. It was very much kind of like a forum. And you know what, because I'm a professional and because I prepared for this video, I did actually check yesterday whether this website still existed, and oh my god, it doesn't. It's gone. It has ceased operation from February 2017. And the only reason I can think that that has happened is because basically no one uses it and it's very much outdated. No one uses websites and forums to plan trips anymore. But in those days, that was pretty much the only thing I had to help me find out about a destination. The second thing I had was one of these, either a Lonely Planet guidebook or a rough guidebook. Personally, I always had the rough guidebooks. I found they were much better because look at the Lonely Planet. I don't want to read all that. There's too many words and not enough pictures. I'm stupid, like probably many of you, in terms of planning a trip. So, you know, the rough guidebook was a lot better than this, I found, because there was lots of pictures and it kind of captured the imagination. And, you know, that book was literally my Bible. I remember when I went to Australia and there were so many notes written all over it and, you know, all sorts of crap. And it was great to look back on years later. Of the stupid things I wrote and the general travel stupidity I had. But the fact is that and Virtual Tourist back in the day were the only real ways that you had to plan trips. At least in my case, it might be different for you. By the way, if you are thinking about how you travelled back in the day, why don't you leave a comment down in the comments below and tell me how you used to plan your trips back in the day. And you know, one of the great things about not having as much information as we do these days is the fact that travel was very much more a voyage of discovery, and you went to places you didn't know the top 10 places to go, or the top 10 places to get drunk, or the top 10 places to catch chlamydia. You know, those things just weren't available. You had to find them out yourself, which I think has kind of come out of the travel world now very much. And I almost have to force myself not to look at some of these things sometimes so that I can actually discover it myself. You know, I think that's something that's been lost, and I think that's what travel fundamentally is about. We need to get that back. So onto the actual travelling, when you actually get on the plane with your ridiculously massive backpack full of clothes that you don't need and traveller's checks, whatever they are, and you get to the country that you get to. How the hell do you get to your hostel? I don't remember, so let's have a look at the book again. You know, these books, there's probably none in here that I can find now. So there's one, for example. All you had was that map. So there was no Google Maps, okay? There was no Maps Me or anything like that. You basically just had a little map with numbered, like a key that told you where the things were. And that, again, was my Bible. If I accidentally ripped out a page, I would have a complete meltdown. You know, how do we get around these days? We use Google Maps, we use Maps Me, we use everything like that, and it's so much easier. But in those days, it was very innocent. We just had a little map, and that's the only way we knew to get around a city. And if our hostel was miles away, not in that map, you just wouldn't book it. You would book the one that was on the map, so at least you knew. At least you knew that you can get to your hostel. Maybe I should redo that bit. No, I think I'm going to leave it in there. And in terms of Google Maps, these days, you know, if I'm going out for a day or whatever to do various things, I will use Google Maps to get around the city and not be lost. And that's one thing that I hate about travelling these days, and I'm guilty of it because I always use Google Maps and I wish I didn't. There's some times where I will just not use it. For example, when I was in Naples in Italy, I didn't use Google Maps. I purposely just wandered around the back streets and got lost. That's what travelling is about. You know, don't think that you have to use Google Maps, things like that. Get lost, go old school, go back in the day style travelling. It's brilliant. And you know, another thing about finding things to do in a place, because you haven't got these 10 things to do videos in YouTube, or at least you didn't. YouTube didn't even exist in those days, and travel blogging wasn't exactly a big thing. The way you found out about things to do was by talking to people at your hostel. Yes, talking to human beings did actually happen, believe it or not. So if you're a millennial who doesn't believe you should, oh, the drilling has started, who doesn't believe that you need to talk to people in this day and age, you're wrong. You're stupid, bloody millennials. I'm not one of them. You know, you would talk to the owner in the hostel, he or she would give you guidance on where to go. You would talk to other travellers, where have they been? Yeah, you kind of still do that sometimes these days, but not as much as you used to. You know, there would be things up in hostels saying, you know, this is the place, these are the places to go, that sort of thing. It was brilliant. And the last point is about how did we record our trips? How did we document them? Obviously we took photos, but I remember in Australia at that time, we actually had, wait for it, disposable cameras. What are they? And yeah, we had about, I don't know how many we had, but we had loads of them. And I remember we took photos and you couldn't see what the photo was. What? That's insane, you know. So basically I remember waiting about 4 weeks into the trip before we went to an actual photo processing place and processed the photos. And I remember the excitement of standing outside the photo place, going through all of our photos. Most of them are absolute shit, but it was, again, it was the innocence of it. You didn't have to take a photo 900 times. You didn't take selfies. They didn't exist. You know, it was just more innocent, and I really wish we could get back to those days. Of course, these days, we have everything under the sun. We have all sorts of cameras, we have smartphones, we have Instagram, where we literally record our entire life, including what you have for breakfast, which I did this morning. Sorry about that. So to end this video, overall, you know, the thing I think about this subject is that obviously the world has changed, technology moves on, etc. And the way people plan trips and the way people actually do trips changes significantly. But I don't think there's anything wrong with being old school, okay? You see all these videos, 10 things to do, etc. You don't necessarily have to do all those things. So if you're a first-time traveller that is going away for the first time and you think that you have to do these things that all these YouTubers have done, you don't have to. Do your own trip. Everyone's trip is different. Travelling is different for everyone. And if you want to do it the old way, there's nothing wrong with that. You won't get frowned upon. You know, oh, shut up. Now the banging has started again, just as I get serious. Yeah, so basically, that's this video done. And it would be great if you tell me in the comments below your experiences of old school travel and how you feel the travel world has progressed over the years. Don't forget to do the like button and also subscribe, because there's loads more videos coming from Japan. I'm here for about another 6 weeks. I'm going back to Tokyo in a couple of weeks, which is going to be epic. Literally epic. And there'll be no more mentions of the word twink, probably. So anyway, I'll see you next time, and I will catch you later.